Okay, here's my R script, here's a to-do, I want to go follow that up. I don't have to open up my R script. Like, watch, I can close that R script file, I can double click on this marker, and it opens up the R script file, and it actually jumps my cursor exactly to where this tag was. Welcome back, everyone. For those of you that are new here, my name is Bryan Jenks, and on this channel we talk about all things programming, tech, and data analytics. It's been a while since I've done an R package review, but that's exactly what we're going to do today. Today I'm going to be covering the TodoR package. This package is a great way of following up on all of those little comment notes you leave yourself, such as bug, fix me, hack, to do, etc. in your code base, and pull them all into one interface and hop to them to resolve them all with one simple tool. So let's jump right into RStudio. So as with all of these package reviews, you can find all of the materials talked about and covered in my Git repository for this entire video series, and the link to that will be in the pinned comment below. So let's get started. The TodoR package is something that I've actually used in production at my workplace, and it's a very, very useful package for just managing all the stuff in your code base to find all of your items that you leave yourself, like comments, to follow up on and handle later. So first of all, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with a brand new R session. You can do, I think it's on Windows, Control-Shift F10, but I'm going to restart my R session so we have a clean slate. All right, so brand new, no options, no anything set, it's brand spanking new. So I have a bunch of files in my current directory. So in this directory, I have, let's see, an HTML file, a Sweave document, .rnw, I have a R Markdown document, R HTML document, and an R script. A lot of these other things we can just ignore because they're not relevant to this entire subject. So I have all these files, and within them I have placed comments of different kinds, and we're going to actually run the function TodoR and see what sort of output it gives us. So now when I run this, we get this whole list right here in a tab called Markers. And now some of these of this output is very interesting. It'll tell you the exact file path to a specific document. So it starts from your home directory and all the places leading up to the actual file, and it'll tell you what the file is. So we have an R script, and we have a single to-do, and it's actually a to-do item, comment on line 2. Now, I also have another document here. This one is for the actual R Markdown document we started with, and we have all these different kinds of notes. We have to-dos, we have fix-me's, we have a bug, and all of these items are comments in the actual files. So what is it actually doing? What TodoR does is that it will find all these comments. So when you leave a comment for yourself, you don't want it actually printed in your output, you don't want any code executed, it's just something to remind you later. But comments have a way of being forgotten, just being buried under a large code base, and we forget to follow up on these things, or we forget why we put something there. So TodoR is a really great tool to make sure that you actually go back and remove and follow up on these items. So in R Markdown, actually in the code chunk area, comments start with a hash symbol. So you can see right here, I have one to do, here's a comment follow-up note, and we can look over in the markers, and right here for the R Markdown document, we have to do, here's a comment follow-up note, but the to do is actually pulled out and actually tells you what kind of note this is, and then it actually tells you the content of the note. So it actually pulls out that first category here, which is how we have to structure it. It has to be like the comment symbol to start it off, and the beginning of the comment is actually the type that we actually want to specify it as. So you can see right off the bat what occurred is that I ran the TodoR function, and then all of my R files in the entire project were scanned. So TodoR by default will work with an entire R project. It defaults to the project level and says everything within this R project, we're going to look at it and we're going to pull out all of these items. So it pulls out everything out of R scripts and your R Markdown documents. But we also have some expanded functionality on what it can look at, and we'll get into that as we get further into the video. So let's say we have a very large file, a lot of code, a lot of items, and we only want to look at notes for that one specific file and ignore everything else temporarily. So we have the ability to do a single file scan with TodoR, and we do that with the TodoR_file argument function. And we're going to pass it a string argument of the actual name of the file. Now, right now, I'm currently operating at the same directory level. So that means that my current project and all my files in my project are at the same directory level. Normally in an R project, you might have a directory, with a capital R, and you keep all your R scripts in there, and you have an inst, like an install file for your R Markdown documents. So you have differing directories normally in an R project. So right now, it's at basically a relative reference to where this file is located. It's at the same level, so that's why it's just the name of the file. But you will have to use actual file paths if you do different directories and keep these files in different locations, because by default, TodoR is working at the root directory level of the R project, which is why pairing it with the here package is a really good idea. I think I've already done a review on the here package. If not, I will be doing one soon. If I have already done it by this point, I'll put a card up above. But the here package is really useful to be able to say, hey, we're starting at the root level of the project. Now go to this directory, now this directory, and now this file. And that way you're able to basically have relative references by starting at the root of your project level. But in any case, TodoR_file, I want to run it on just my R Markdown document. So currently we see my R script to-dos and my R Markdown to-dos. If I run this function, now we only have the to-dos for the R Markdown document. So this way, if you have a very large file and you just want to cut out a lot of the noise and focus on one specific file at that point in time, you can easily run this on a single file. So let's say you have an R package, an entire encapsulated package for R. Now, maybe you don't have an R project file in this package, and that would mean, how are we operating at the project level if there's no .rproj file? So in this case, what you might want to do is run the TodoR_package function, where it will scan an entire R package for all of your to-dos. I'm going to run this, and it finds nothing because currently I'm not running a package. Now, if you did this and you actually had a package, very useful function. It'll tell you everything you need to know. You're good to go. One really great feature of TodoR is that it also comes installed with several different RStudio add-ins. So when you install the package with install.packages, I don't even think you have to load it with library to use these add-ins. You just run these add-ins. So in RStudio, we have the add-ins drop down for different packages. And right here, I have TodoR, and you can actually find all the active to-dos in your active file, which is the file you're currently on, your project, or your package. If I run file, it'll just do the R Markdown file. If I do project, it'll pull out everything for the entire project, which is currently the R script and the R Markdown document. And we saw earlier that package does nothing because currently this is not encapsulated within an R package. It is a project. So very useful features. These are all add-ins in the add-in menu. And sometimes I will just quickly run this if I want the output, and it works great. Okay, so we can find to-dos. You saw that I have examples of fix me and bug, but what other things can TodoR find by default without any additional functionality or hacking? So by default, TodoR has several things it will find and look for just right out of the box. We have to-do, fix me, changed, idea, hack, note, review, bug, question, comeback, and temp. These are all things that right out of the box, TodoR will find if you use this correct structure of, start the comment, either in this case, the code chunk uses a hash symbol, and then the actual word. I don't even think you need it to be in all caps. Let's test this out and run one. To-do, this is not in all caps. Now I save the document. You make sure if you're going to run this on an R Markdown document or something that you actually have to save your file first. If you haven't actually created the file on your file system, you try to run this. I actually got some Stack Overflows, I think, on RStudio, and I actually had to restart my computer. So be wary and do not do my mistake. So now let's actually run this on the entire project. It does not find it. So in this case, let's actually change it to caps to verify. Save the document, rerun it for the entire project. All right, maybe it was there. Actually, let me undo that. Save that and rerun. Yes, okay, so it does in fact need it to be in all caps. So make sure that when you're writing these items that you always start the comment off and you write the tag in all caps as the first thing directly after the comment is started, and then whatever else you put after it will be put into this markers pane to let you know what was I talking about, what is this about, and a little bit more information about it. So that's a lot of different items that you can search for just right as you start. So what if you want to actually limit that down and you want to ignore some things? Like you really only want to look at 2 different types of tags and you only want to see what you're actually interested in. So right here you can see in my R Markdown document I have a tag for an item that's called bug. Well, let's say I don't want to look at any of the bugs, I want to look at to-dos and fix-me's. So right here you can just use the exact same TodoR function, and if you pass in a vector using the C function and you pass in some comma separated strings, all caps, but you can actually specify which tags you want to find. In this case, I'm saying, hey, TodoR, look for only to-dos and fix-me's. If I run this function, you can see that bug has now disappeared from my markers tab for the R Markdown document. I only see to-dos and fix-me's. And you can find as many of the items as you want, but you have to specify them in a comma separated string, and this will work for narrowing down which tags you actually want to focus on at that given point in time. If you don't want to have to write out the entire list of items you want TodoR to look for, say that you never use anything other than to-do and fix-me, and you actually want to define your own custom search value, then you can actually use the options function and pass in TodoR underscore patterns and then give it a vector of strings separated by commas and say, hey, TodoR, whenever you run without having any arguments, so basically remove this vector, when I just run that function TodoR, I only want you to ever search for these items. And you can pass this and you can put this in your .r profile if you wanted to, so that way whenever you run this function, you never have to specify an entire list of stuff. It's set once, set it and forget it. And that way you could say, hey, I only want you to look for to-dos and fix-me's, and then with this option, TodoR underscore patterns, you can actually define custom things you want it to look for. Because let's say that you have, I don't know, a note where instead of using to-dos and fix-me's, you might want to use your coworkers' names to make sure that that person comes back, or they just use their names to tag these things. In which case you could actually custom define the names of these people or whatever, and then now it's searchable by TodoR, and if you use the same structure, begin the comment, all caps or even lowercase if you specify it that way, the actual tag, and then the item to actually follow up on, then this will work for that. So just as a quick example, I change this list, hey, fix me to do and my name, and then I make a tag, Bryan. This is not in all caps, so I can save this, I can run this on the entire project, and right here at the bottom, you can see now my name is now indexed as one of these search values. So you can do this for whatever value that you want. Now after setting the patterns options argument, I actually need to restart my R session just to make sure that I don't limit myself for future examples. But that is all options and comments within an actual code chunk in the R Markdown document. What about other parts of the document? What about other comment types? So this will actually work with other document types and the way that they do comments. So in the code chunks, we actually still use the R syntax, so the hash symbol for comments, and there's no multi-line comments. But in the actual R Markdown space for Markdown text, where we actually use HTML syntax and HTML comments like this, you can see that the bug option has been getting picked up. So when I run this on project, bug does get picked up, and it does actually have the HTML comment tag. So the angle brackets, the bang, and the 2 dashes, all of this does get picked up. So in this case, you can have, Markdown comments, and they still get picked up for these tags. So no matter where you leave these tags and these comments, it will get picked up by TodoR, especially if you specify the exact tags you're looking for. So far, we've only been able to see the tags in the R script file and the R Markdown document. Now I had some other R document types open here that we actually put some comments in. So I have RHTML, I have the Sweave document, so the .rnw, and you can see in this Sweave document, it's just simple, there's a hack tag here, and it's a very empty document. It's just that comment, RHTML, here's a bug, it's in the R code chunk of this, you could put it in an actual HTML comment, either way, but we haven't seen any of these comments from these 2 documents listed here. What gives? So by default, it's not going to look at those document types. It's only going to look at the R scripts and the R Markdown document file types. So we have some other options here to control the behavior of TodoR. So we also have to pass this into options. So again, you can set this into your R profile and forget it and be done with it. But we have .rmd, so the TodoR underscore, and then the actual name of the file type. So RMD, that's R Markdown document. And the default for this option is true. So let's say you actually wanted to ignore the R Markdown document. You could set this to false. By default, it's set to true because obviously it finds them. if you actually want to search through Sweeve documents, you can set the underscore RNW option with TodoR to true, so it will actually find Sweeve documents. I'm going to run that. Now I'm going to run the project, and now we actually have the hack option, or the hack tag here, for the comment in the Sweeve document. Now Sweeve is basically embedded R code with a specific syntax in a LaTeX document, and in LaTeX we actually use %signs for the comment, so I can save this, I can run that, and with the actual LaTeX comment type with the %sign, it still picks it up. So that's 3 different kinds of comments that it's just finding based on the options that we give it. So the next one we have is the RHTML document. I've never actually used this document. I really wonder who's actually using these types of documents. But in any case, if you wanted to actually have your to-do items in this type of document found, you could either use the HTML comments up here, you could use the R comments in the embedded code chunks right there. And setting the RHTML option to true will actually let you have the option to find all the comments in the RHTML document right here. So that's a really useful option. Now, one thing I haven't said yet is we have all this list of markers. Okay, and what if you have a very large code base, hundreds of files, lots of stuff to sift through to find what you're looking for? That's a lot of things to go hunting down for each and every single one of these commented tag items. What do we do? So one of the very, very useful parts of TodoR is that once it builds this markers list of all of these tags that it's found in all of your files based on the options that you've given it and how you ran the function, let's say, okay, here's my R script, here's a to-do, I want to go follow that up. I don't have to open up my R script. Like, watch, I can close that R script file, I can double click on this marker, and it opens up the R script file, and it actually jumps my cursor exactly to where this tag was. And it's a marker. So it's basically saying, hey, that file, that line, take me there. If the file's not open, it'll open the file. If your cursor's not there, it'll take your cursor there. And I'm right where I wanted to be on that item. I can go to the R Markdown ones because now I'm in the R script, but I want to go back. I can go to this fix me, I can go to the bug, I can go to the Sweeve document, the RHTML document. So with this, you could easily jump around and handle all the stuff that you want to do. And I think that with the markers tab, it'll actually work the same way with lint-R to make sure that you're linting your code correctly and it's structured correctly. But in any case, this is an incredibly useful feature because not only does it find and scan all your documents to look for all these items, but it lets you easily get to them and then fix them. So let's say we have a project or a package, and you're using an actual snapshot of all the items that you have installed for reproducibility or a reproducible analysis. You might use Packrat for this. Packrat is basically a way of taking a snapshot of all of your currently installed and loaded packages so that you can actually say, hey, when I did my analysis, here is everything I used and the version of it that I used. This is a very useful system. I haven't had too much experience with Packrat, but in any case, all I ran in this entire directory, which basically you treat it like a project or a package, is you run Packrat init. So you basically init a Packrat instance, Packrat, and then let's do init. And really, it's just creates a project directory and makes a new Packrat project in the directory. So really, it's just load all your stuff, put it into the directory. Great. So what happens when you just run TodoR on the entire project or directory? Now, it hasn't been popping up here, but this might actually cause an issue later, is that if you do not exclude the Packrat directory, every single file in that directory and all of its to-dos from all the developers that ever worked on those packages that are snapshotted in there come up. Now, by default, the exclude Packrat is actually true, which means that you normally do not have to worry about this. For some reason, if you wanted to actually see all of the to-dos in your Packrat files that are saved, you can set this to false, the option TodoR exclude Packrat to false. You can run that, and then you can actually run TodoR project, and you'll see an abysmally large amount of all of these items from every developer for every package. And you can see that we have documents, we have library frameworks, R framework versions 4.0. So even in the R 4.0 resources, we have all of these to-do items in here, and it's a lot. I only have like maybe 7 or so items, but look at all of these. So if you want to ignore these, you just set exclude Packrat to true, or in this case, you don't even have to explicitly say that. It's ignored by default. But for some reason, if this comes up for you and this is an issue, you can set this option to false or to true, and it will ignore all those things. And now when I run project, it will ignore all the stuff in Packrat. Last but not least is one more option to exclude everything from R files. This is basically your R scripts. If you leave comments in your R script files, like for instance, this one has to do some data cleaning and use the pipe, blah, blah, blah. If we actually set this to true to ignore all those files that begin with or that end with the .r extension, capital or lowercase, either way, and we run this on the package. So right here, it should be at the top. If we run project, it's no longer located because now these R script files are ignored. So I'm not sure why you might want to do that, because that's actually one of the file types that I think you would want to actually find. But for whatever case, if you have a use case for that, you can ignore all the comments in an R file this way. So I hope you found this video interesting. I'll be loading up all of these files like the R Markdown document, Sweep, etc., all into the R package review GitHub repository, where I keep all of these review videos and all of their contents and used files in there. And you can easily go check that out. I'll put a link to that in the pinned comment below. And yeah, I won't be including any of the Packrat stuff just because it's basically like a copy of all the libraries you're using. It's a lot of extra data that I'm just not going to include. So it'll pretty much just be all of these files that were sitting at the root directory level and nothing that was involved with Packrat. But if you wanted to do that, you could easily just install the Packrat library, load it, and then run Packrat in it. And you just did exactly what I did. And then you'd have this same issue if you wanted to replicate it yourself. So without further ado, thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, please subscribe, check out the channel. I make a lot of videos like this. And thank you to all the patrons who support this channel. Thank you, Devin, Klaus, Alberto. Thank you guys for supporting the channel on Patreon. And I'll catch you in the next one.